Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear and see me. And if you can't, please send me a chat message. So we will start the webinar shortly. We are just waiting for a few more people. That's a good turn up. Great, thank you for the responses. I can see that people can hear me. That's brilliant. Right. So I think we can begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online event. Let me just share my screen with you. And that's the presentation code. Добро пожаловать. So it's been decided that we will use English as our working language today, but please feel free to ask your questions in Russian if it's easier for you. And also you can introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, you may be the city, your educational establishment, so we can get to know you a bit more. Thank you. So for those who are not able to join us today, I am recording this webinar and I'm going to send them the link after the event. And I'm certainly happy to share the link with you too, if you wanted me to. So this event is organized by European Schoolbooks, or ESB for short. My name is Masha Kulikova. And I've been looking after the Russian department in our company since 2016. Our speakers today are Marina Chetinalp and Marta Tomaszewski, who are the co-founders of MAR Russian Resources, which we are going to focus on today. So both our speakers are authors as well as practicing teachers of Russian who are passionate about comprehensive and authentic materials to support Russian language learning in British schools. So this is our third webinar with MAR Russian Resources, where we display and discuss the most popular practice material for GCSE and A-level exam preparation. And I must admit that the previous webinars were very well received. And these are UK specific materials we're talking about. And we are very happy to see such a big interest in them. So before we begin the webinar, let me just go over some rules for this event. You can leave your videos on or you can turn them off. It's entirely up to you, but please keep your microphones muted. So when we have our speakers talking, we don't have any outside interference, please. Also, we have decided it's going to be a networking event. So please feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts, and send us any feedback at the end of the event. We have a Q&A session at the end, which is quite long today. So feel free to ask your questions via chat, or you can turn your video so we can get to see you too. And as you see the agenda, we aim to finish by 12. So let's begin. Just a brief introduction of European Schoolbook, who we are and what we do. For those of you who don't know about us, ESB is a small UK-based company owned by a family of booksellers, and it's been around since 1964. ESB is one of the main distributors of language learning books, and we provide course books, textbooks, workbooks, easy readers, grammars, self-study guides, dictionaries, And lots of our language learning resources now come in digital format as well as e-books. We also do literature, fiction and non-fiction titles. And we specialize in 6 main languages, which are Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, German, and Russian, of course. And we partner with most of the key European and Russian publishers of language learning literature and support UK universities, language schools, libraries, private tutors, private customers. And you can see as well our partner program. We do run a partner program, and the members, teachers and students are entitled to some discounts and some other benefits as well. And at the end of this event, I will share all the contact information with you. And last but not least, before I hand over to Marina and Marta, I would like to announce our big news. So the big news to our company, the big news to our bookshop in London, which has now been refitted as a showroom. So we've launched our first campaign in September, on the 1st of September, in fact. And each month we will be bringing you our handpicked selections of books and resources on a dedicated theme of the month. And in September, to kickstart the new school year, we have decided to celebrate the world of children's books in European languages. And for Russian, we have a fantastic selection of folk and fairy tales, Russian children's classics, best-selling literature for the little ones, comics, stories, and of course, language learning resources, including the first ABC books like Azbuki, Bukvari, textbooks, graded readers for bilingual children, games and posters, and much more. So I'm just going to quickly show you the link. That's the russianbookshop.co.uk. I'll take you to our website. So this is the Russian website. And you can see this month is dedicated to children's books. So this is the section which is devoted entirely to the new releases, all these stories by the Russian authors, contemporary Russian authors. And here you can see the selections. I was talking about classics, translations, then language learning, first ABC books, textbooks, bilingual children, Russian as a foreign language. We have readers and graded readers, reference for children, comics and stories for children, older children as well, posters and games. And we really hope that you will enjoy our selections this month. And so that would be my contribution. And Marina and Marta, good luck, and it is over to you. I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Great, thank you very much, Masha, for the introduction. And I will now just share my screen. Okay, so first of all, just to introduce ourselves. So my name is Marta Tomaszewski. I have been teaching Russian for, well, nearly 20 years now. I taught in a secondary school, taught Russian all the way from absolutely no knowledge at all, complete beginners, up to A-level and Oxbridge entrance. And I did that for 15 years. I've been involved in lots of other things as well, writing materials, and I have retrained fairly recently as a translator, now mainly work as an editor and translator, but also still very involved with tutoring Russian and producing the materials together with Marina. And we set up our company, well, we've been working together since 2018. We actually became a proper limited company a year ago. So if I hand over now to Marina for her introduction.
Thank you, Marta. Yes, so my name is Marina Chetinalp, as you can probably see, one of the co-directors of MAR Russian Resources, so which has we've created as our partnership after having written a few books together, because we just thought it might be a good time to establish ourselves rather than just writing as separate authors. And well, yes, I'm also a teacher, and at the moment I'm teaching in a private school. I've got over 20 years of general state school experience and private tutoring, as well as writing resources. And in our partnership with Marta, I generally take care of the proofreading from the native speaker point of view. So we make sure that the materials we source are authentic, they are appropriate, and obviously error-free as much as we can, and they don't sound English, you know, but obviously with certain extent, we're trying to make sure that they're not far too difficult for learner candidates, but challenging enough and Russian enough for the heritage learners and native speakers who would like to take the exams, the Edexcel, at the moment only exams. So because, as you know, the PRU is stopping their series of exams, so all the materials we are producing is aimed at Edexcel curriculum, be it GCSE or A-level. So it's fully addressing the specification, and we'll talk in a bit more detail of how we think our books will help you in addressing those issues and helping your students to cover the full spectrum of the information required. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to look at and introduce the full range of our books, but we're going to start off by looking at one book in particular, and this is our book on theme 4. So this is for the A-level. We'll look later at our other A-level resources very briefly, and Marina will talk about the GCSE, our GCSE resources as well. But we thought it would be useful really to dive into theme 4 book a little bit, just to show you how we work, the thinking behind this book. So I know some people who are here today have already got a copy of this book, and we're very grateful that you've purchased it, and it's also new to some people. So I'm apologize to people who already know the book well, but hopefully some of the tips and tricks that we go over will be useful for you. So we have written this book with Katya Baradin, who's also a very experienced teacher of Russian in state school in the UK. And what we have done is very much to ensure that we cover this whole topic. We are aware that the material is quite challenging, but we needed to make sure that we've produced material that is there for the highest ability range, and also for heritage learners and for native speakers who are preparing for the A-level examination. Because what we have to remember is, yes, native speakers are not going to have many problems or any problems with the Russian, but the content is something that is new to them, because final years of the Soviet Union, which I certainly remember, and to them is history. So we have to assume that they don't know a lot of the things that to us are just facts that we think everyone will know. So we've really tried in the book to cover that and make sure that we've got the historical side of things, so that they really do know all the facts and how everything progresses, as well as all the language skills that they need. However, it's important to mention this is a Russian language textbook. It's not a history book. So there'll be different views in the book, and in terms of, for the examiners who will be marking anything that students, for example, talk about in their speaking exam, there's no sort of right or wrong. What's important to them is that the students know the objective facts, but in terms of how they interpret things, that's up to them how they interpret what happened during this period. So we've put this together, and I'm going to hand over now to Marina, who's going to talk in more detail about the content of this book, and how we've divided up the chapters and what is covered in the different chapters.
Yes, again, very briefly, because if you do have a book, you'll obviously know it. If you don't, hopefully you'll soon get to know it. So each of our books, be it book on theme 4, or be it a speaking booklet which we've created, or a literature booklet which covers all literature resources, they would have a content page, and it looks the way we put it is you've got separate chapters. Like for this one, for example, we've got an extra chapter which is not required by the Edexcel curriculum, but we thought, as Marta just mentioned, would be a good idea to give an overview of what was happening in the USSR before the actual process of 1985. So even as we said, even it's not required, but we thought that it's a good way to introduce some language, but also some prior knowledge, so that when students actually move on to chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6 and below, they have a better understanding. So with native speakers, I've been using it throughout because I think it gives them extra knowledge, extra vocabulary, extra arguments to talk about the theme. However, if with your learner candidates, you think that you may not have enough time, you don't have to have it. And the same happens with with our other book, which is on literature resources, for example. Again, we do try to introduce some background information, even though it may not be very widely requested. So you can adjust it as you go along. I would say there's more rather than less of what you will need from each of our books. Yeah, so this is some more examples of what included into book in theme 4. The reason we're focusing a bit more on theme 4 is because obviously that's one of the latest resources we created. So some of you might already have got speaking booklet and literature booklet, but may not have come across this one yet because this is pretty newish. But also theme 3, which is under being developed at the moment and being finalized at the moment, which Marta will touch upon, follows pretty much similar structure. So you will know when the book is out, you will know what to expect. So we have chapters very well laid out with page numbers, and transcripts of audio materials are all attached at the end of the book.
So theme 4, I know some people will be very familiar with the Edexcel syllabus, but if you're not so familiar with it, where does this come? So there are 4 main themes in the A-level specification, and then on top of that there's the study of literature and film. So this theme 4 will be covered somewhere in the listening, reading and translation into English paper. So students won't be tested on particular dates or anything like that, but they will have to have a broad understanding of the topic, and especially of the specific vocabulary to be able to access for listening and reading, and possibly if the translation from Russian into English is on this topic, for that as well. Then we have the literature and film paper. Maybe they don't need any knowledge of this at all. Maybe they're studying Pikova Dama, maybe you're studying Gogol with them. But if you are doing Uciemnione Słońcem, for example, with them, or the Solzhenitsyn text, this all works to help them with that topic. And even Niedziela как Niedziela, yes, it's before this period, but still there's a lot of useful information on here and a lot of useful Soviet vocabulary. So there's an overlap here as well. And then for the speaking examination, because they will get to choose 1 out of 2 cards, they don't know what those 2 cards, what the topics will be, and there is 50% chance that those cards, but at least one of those cards is going to be on this topic. You've got the 4 topics, the 4 themes, so they will have to have it prepared for speaking. And we also have 2 other books that are more specifically on the literature and film and on the speaking examination, which we'll talk about later. So the theme 3 that we're working on at the moment, that will have it the same sort of coverage as here in terms of being across the 3 papers of the A-level examination. So what is in this book? As you've already seen the contents page, but what we've done is to make sure that each chapter follows a certain pattern. So there will be 1 vocabulary section at least at the beginning, and then the main chapters on the topics that are covered by the syllabus also have a vocabulary section at the end that focus on the key concepts so that students can write some notes for themselves there. All the chapters have at least 2 reading texts, and the question types we've used are almost exclusively the same question types as will appear on the examination. So this is very much a training for the examination. You might want to set different questions, and we'll talk about that, but what's really useful here is that they can then look and really get used to those question types and to all those exam skills to prepare them for when they walk in to sit the examination. And they will also have 2 listening comprehension exercises, and we also have audio material on a USB. So if they then have their own copy of their book, their own USB, they can then listen to that at home when they're walking around and just get used to the sound of the Russian, as well as having it then for when they're doing specific exercises. And also in the chapters 4 to 12, there will be a translation either into or out of Russian. So now I'll hand back over to Marina, who's going to talk about more in detail about some of the passages.
Yes, thank you, Marta. So this is one of the sample texts we're using. So the length and the content for chapter 3. We've chosen chapter 3 just obviously because we said it's an introductory chapter, but again, that could very well be used even when you talk about perestroika, etc., because his life and whatever happened to him is very much talks about glasnost and events that preceded perestroika. So, but also, as I said, we decided to choose slightly maybe higher level text sometimes, just to make sure that our native speakers are very much engaged as well, and the materials are appropriate to them, and there's always some challenge and a way to stretch them beyond just the curriculum of Edexcel. But as I said, you could definitely use this one particularly for the main coverage of the just pre-1985 events, and discuss how glasnost is covered and why glasnost was important, etc. And I'm just going to show some exercises. So on the next slide, Marta. Yeah, so the way we decided to choose the lexis, the vocabulary for each chapter, is that it can cover a very broad range of vocabulary, not specifically for that unit only. So yes, it does cover the vocabulary and the words that the students will come across and they will find difficult and they may not know. But when we were trying to select those 10 vocabulary items, we were focusing more on an overall topic, on an overall theme coverage. So by the end of the book, of that theme 4 book, for example, or the literature topics, or the speaking theme booklet, or we're developing now the theme 3. So our sort of understanding is we want to pick up as many key vocabulary items as possible from so that there's a little bit like a glossary for the students for that particular topic, for that particular theme. So so obviously, if you do need to scaffold some reading text or listening text a bit more, you're welcome to do so. As we said, that's not an exhaustive vocabulary list. These are the words that we think will create a nice glossary for your students to be comfortable with each of the themes. And then you're welcome to scaffold it further, or even ask your students maybe to help each other and see how much, because if you do have a bit of a mixed class, like maybe some heritage learners, and learner candidates, because I did have this in my past career when I had 2 heritage learners studying together with learner candidates, and you could use them as a resource in helping out in class with the scaffolding of the text and the vocabulary. Another text which we're also using as an example, as you've probably seen on the other slide, is Solzhenitsyn. And again, the reason we decided to keep that one or put that one in is because it's very useful for literature as well as for covering theme 4. So again, when we were trying to select our text, we were trying to make sure that you as tutors and the students will get the most benefit of what they're reading. So even if they're reading about Solzhenitsyn as part of Perestroika, but then if you were to choose to do Ivan Denisovich with them in your literature work, then here you are, you already have some background information about him. So they're all very thoroughly chosen and worked on. And this is an example of multiple choice questions on Solzhenitsyn text. Again, it's just an extract. There are 4 or 5 questions, I think. I can't remember now on top of my head. And obviously, there's a mark scheme for each of those. Okay, and in terms of the translation, so in theme 4, we decided to do translations mainly into English because we thought that that's a very hard topic to translate back into Russian, and it's very rare that these ones would come in the Edexcel curriculum. However, in our new theme 3 book, we're creating a mixture of different translations. So it will be English into Russian, Russian into English. And Marta will talk more about it in detail, how we plan to do it. So I think there will be a bit more help, Marta, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of how teachers can pick and choose the materials.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so shall I pass over to you then now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go over a couple of things that could be useful in terms of, we have referred now a few times to scaffolding. In other words, helping students. If sometimes you can just give them the exercise, they carry on with it as intended, but what are the different ways that you can help them if, for example, they find some of the vocabulary very tricky, or they're feeling a bit overwhelmed by a certain passage. So I'm just going to give you a few ideas and then talk about theme 3. So we were saying that at the end of each chapter, you will have a vocabulary section like this, which rather than just being match it with the English or match it with a definition, they are asked to provide a full definition. Now, as Marina said, sometimes you might have a mixture of students in your class of heritage learners and of English learners. So this exercise is at the end of the chapter, but you might actually want to come to it first and ask them what they think it means in English, and then talk about it generally, what are their concepts. And don't forget that you probably already have students with some knowledge in the class, because it's very common for students to be studying history A-level, and this is quite a common topic for them to be studying for history A-level. So to get the information out of them first, what they know about the history, and then to approach the Russian. Or it might be that you use this table at the end of a unit and set it as a homework and ask them to come up with a full definition that they then share with the class. Or it might be that you leave this until the end of studying this whole topic, and then ask them to go back in their books and to fill in all these tables just as a revision exercise. Then we've been talking as well about the different listening and reading exercises, but you can always use one in a slightly different for different skills. So for example, going back to the translation exercise, you could just set this as a translation, or you could use this to ask them to read through and answer some questions. You could do this as a quick reading exercise, or you could get them to practice what they have to do for the listening, which is to listen out for 3 key points. One of the exercises, they have to listen out for 3 key points and to write a little summary. Now, they can find that quite tricky as a skill. So you might want to do that actually as a reading exercise first, rather than asking them straight away to do a summary from a listening. And these little translations are actually a really good length. And you could ask them, okay, first of all, you might just say, give me 3 things that you've learned from this text. Then you might say, okay, you give them in Russian the 3 things that you want them then to give more detail about that are covered in this text, and build up to those skills that they're then going to apply in the listening. So we've given you a huge amount of material in the book, and I think it's unlikely, especially in a classroom situation, that you would cover absolutely everything. So you can pick and choose what's there, and don't forget as well that you've got the transcripts of all the listening material, so they can use that as well as reading exercise or for revision. Another thing, quick tip, I found quite often students, when they first start reading and something quite so dense and on quite such a serious topic matter, they can feel overwhelmed. And it's quite easy for us to think, okay, a good exercise for them to do is to tell us which words they don't understand. But often they just think, oh, I can't understand any of it. So what I have done in the past in students that I've found really effective is to get them to highlight all the words they know. They do that once, and then you say, okay, read through it again. They've already highlighted words, so I think, okay, right, I know that one, and then say, right, read it out to yourself. Maybe it's a cognate, or maybe you can work out the meaning, and maybe they just put a squiggly line under the ones they think they know. And then after that, you tackle the text, because you've built their confidence then of, actually, there is a lot there that I do already know. And then you can get them to start looking at the meaning of the text. Another good technique is with the reading exercises. They don't have to understand every single word. Of course, it would be great if they did, but we need to make sure that they can pick out that important information. So focus on the questions, maybe it's multiple choice, and working out what the question means. Then they can do a prediction of what the answer is going to be, and only then do they look at the text. And just have them look at the text and pick out the important information to answer those questions. Don't feel that you have to go through every text and make sure that they understand absolutely everything, because reading for gist is a really important skill. So that's what we've done for theme 4. And let's now show you for theme 3. This is a sneak preview. You're the first people to see this. This is our cover for the next book. We're hoping that it'll be published towards the very end of this year, beginning of next year. Katya, Marina and I are working very hard on this at the moment. So we're aware for this topic that students can choose either Moscow or Petersburg. So how have we made sure that the book is relevant? We've made sure that there are lots of facts in it about both Moscow and Petersburg, but also that some of the texts are going to be a bit more general, so that they have information and that vocabulary that they need generally for the 2 cities. And also that they are things that sort of common enough that they can look at it okay, maybe they're not studying Moscow, but they're looking at some information about Moscow. There's still a lot that's relevant there, and they might be able to find something similar that's in St. Petersburg. So what we haven't wanted to do is just split the two cities completely and have, so you're only really using half the book. We're really conscious to give you as much material as possible. And in the same way as we did for the Theme 4 book, there will be some introductory chapters to give some background about the two cities, because we assume a lot of knowledge here. So they need some basic facts and some information about the cities before they then start looking at the detailed Edexcel syllabus. So a few previews of exercises, and I stress that these are, it's still a work in progress, it's still something we're editing and looking at, but it's just to give you an idea of what it will look like. Be very similar to the Theme 4 books. We will have vocab sections at the beginning with really as many topic-based words as we can, but also occasionally words that are just useful for A-level generally. This would be a very typical listening exercise. Again, very much this is in the style of the examination, and then we've then look at ecology, for example, and here you'll have something about nuclear power stations, which will then overlap slightly with the vocabulary that they look at in Theme 4 if they do the text that we have on Chernobyl. So it all builds together really nicely, and it will be a very familiar format for them. So this is our range of books for A-level at the moment. The book on the end of on the right hand side, Theme 4, what we've talked about in detail today. The Theme 3 book still being worked on, but will be published hopefully later this year. And also the first two books that we wrote, which were the practice speaking materials, where you have the practice cards to help them and vocabulary there, and also facts, lots of useful information, but as digestible as possible. And then also our book on the literature and film, in which we cover every single set book and film, but the way we have done it there is we have given them examples of essays or just little paragraphs that are either all the Russian in it is correct, but the first paragraph might not be great, second one a bit better, third one it's more of a model paragraph, so that they can look at those essay skills and look at that for a text maybe that they're not studying and that they can try and judge, but then they've got the section on the text that they are studying, where they've got lots of useful background information and vocab, and also throughout there's a lot of useful vocab for writing about literature and film. So we were very conscious when we wrote that it's not just a book where you're only using a couple of sections. There are bits throughout the book that are useful. With Theme 3 and 4, they're not shown here, but they both come, Theme 4 already, Theme 3 when we finished it, with a USB. And so if students have their own copy of the book, then they also have their own copy of the USB, and they have that listening material, a wealth of material read out by native speakers in very clear and very well timed Russian, so it's not too fast. So we've tried to make it authentic, but of course it's nowhere near as fast as, for example, if you were watching the news in Russian. So really accessible to them. So if they have their own personal copies, they can then put that on their computers, they can put it on all sorts of MP3 players and listen to that as well. So that's the A-level range. I'm now going to pass over to Marina just to talk briefly about the GCSE range of materials.
Yeah, Thank you. Just to probably add very briefly, so in terms of having the books for the students, personal books for the students, I think it is a very good idea, because if you can't cover everything in class, then there's a wealth of materials that they can then do a bit more extra studies on, or with the listening USB stick and transcripts at the end of the booklets, they can definitely go over them again in their own time, picking up maybe and correcting themselves if they had a really low score in class, for example. So to give them that extra practice, but also, I suppose, with the current regulations on copywriting, I think government is encouraging students to have, you know, more or less their own copy when it is possible. Particularly if it's like if you're doing a private tutoring, and so a family, I suppose, would be happy, more than happy, to provide their own book for their children. So yes, and now more to the GCSE range. So the very first one on the left, and as you can see, it doesn't follow our MAR Russian Resources trademark, because I wrote it in collaboration with another company in a way, which we parted our ways now, but it's been published by Zlatoust, so it's not that it's developed by Zlatoust, we use them as a publisher only. So this is all you need really for practicing speaking GCSE part 1 and part 2, which covers role play and picture-based conversation, picture-based discussion. It has two quite separate parts in it. So the first part is students' cards, and the second part is teachers' cards. So they're very well laid out, again, with a content page. In terms of RKI, how you can use it in your own practice, even if they don't take exam with Edexcel. Obviously, as you probably know, because it has role plays on all various topics, like daily topics, holidays, work experience, weather, travel, school, education. So you can definitely use it as a dialogue or warm up, or, you know, role play situations in your classes. Picture description, again, because it has questions, you could use them as springboard for helping them talk about a picture, or using that picture and the questions actually discover more and express themselves on a particular topic. And again, the themes are very generic, even for general learner of Russian as a foreign language, which is travel, education, work, weather, holidays, traditions, etc. So we've had a few teachers who were buying it, even though they were teaching Russian as a foreign language, because it is a very generic, a foreign language teaching resource, I would say. The same goes for Na Start Vнимание Marsh. So it is a PDF resource, which means that when you buy it, we supply it on a USB. So all the files and the audio files are supplied in one little storage USB. It also comes together with the content distribution, which covers, again, very well. It's a nice spreadsheet where you can see vocabulary sections, grammar sections, how they're spread out, how they're covered. So we've now created these little cover pages, so it's easily recognizable, and so you know what you want. So Na Start has two modules, 1 and 2. It's not one book. We've just done it as one book because it's more of the beginner level, but in a way it is two separate modules which are sold separately, and each has its own USB. So, but overall, they cover you from the very, very beginner level, learning an alphabet and talking about colors, little family vocabulary, and food, moving into like hobbies, sport, weather, touching a bit of schooling and sort of your house and furniture, etc. But they are two separate modules. I just want to stress it again. And each of the module is enough for a good year of studies. So really with 1 and 2, you're kind of covered for 2-year course, or if you've got a slightly more accelerated curriculum and more hours in your school or with your private learners, because obviously you're working 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, it's probably moves much quicker, or you have native speakers, heritage learners, but who don't know how to write or don't read very well, you might cover 1 and 2 in 1 year in one go. So it all depends on the speed your learners will work with. Vнимание is more based around GCSE requirements and solid pass for GCSE. And again, the list of the topics is not exhaustive here, but we're just trying to give you some ideas. So what it covers, like clothes, appearance, books, hobbies, different films, and a lot of travel. So it includes more grammatical tenses there as well, going into past and future. And if you look at MARSH, so this is a well-deserved 7 and above grade for GCSE. So how can you adapt it to your Russian as a foreign language learners or your course if you're not teaching to Edexcel, but you are just teaching it in your classroom, you're teaching as a foreign language, maybe to an adult even. So I think all of these are appropriate to about 14, 16, or even up to 18 age category. There are certain topics, like for example, school, that you may not need, then you can just cut it out of there. But overall, it covers a wide range of vocabulary on each of the daily necessary topics for communication and work. And that's what the RKI is for, I suppose. So in MARSH 4, you also have a lot to do with work, jobs, writing a CV, writing a resume, applying for jobs, different celebrations, traditions, with quite advanced length and level of texts. So to kind of preempt your question, so this course is more or less what you will need to cover teaching from complete beginner up to a post GCSE level. So MARSH 4 gives a very, if you do it all the way like back to back, it gives you a very nice level which you can then move your learners, from which you can then move your learners onto A level or post, like more like post intermediate level studies. So Marta, is that all of the PowerPoint? So
that's all the PowerPoints.
Yes.
I'll stop sharing my screen there.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to give you a little glimpse of the sample pages of MARSH. We do have more sample pages available on European Bookshop websites. So if you are interested in looking for at more sample pages of Na Start 1, Na Start 2, and Vнимание, they're available there. But just I thought I'll show you a little introduction so at least you understand how the material is laid out. So this is MARSH, that's the first unit of MARSH, which is, we talk about probably, you know, solid grade 5-ish. So that's where they start. So we've got holidays here with questions, comprehension questions. And again, every unit is very well labeled, so you can't lose your way around it. So audio materials are also very well labeled according to the listening texts. Then we have translation, practice, speaking practice, which then, if you wish, you can turn into writing as well, or short pieces of writing. Again, I'm just making you aware that these are just snapshots. So this is page 1, this is page 4. So don't try and look for, so obviously some materials are missing here, but this is just a glimpse into the materials. Then listening exercise, рабочая практика, here you are. And then work experience, as you can see, it already requires usage of all tenses and some explanation and giving reasons. So each unit has, not even each unit, but each, so the way the material works, so you've got all these 4 modules, and each module has different parts. So each module includes about 6 parts, so часть, and then each part has 5 to 6 lessons, уроки. So that's why here you've got марш, часть 3, which is more or less in the beginning of the course, but not the very first one. Работа, карьера, урок 3. So you've got plenty of information there. Yeah, so that was часть 1, урок 4. This is another snapshot. Часть 3, урок 3. And each part, again, has a grammar reference as well, which students can then practice using in that particular lesson. Each lesson also has a vocabulary section at the end, and I think it hasn't come up here. But yeah, no worries. It may be just my computer being a bit slow, but each lesson, то есть each урок, ends with a vocabulary section, English to Russian, and Russian to English as well. I think that's it, isn't it, from us? So, so Masha, shall I pass over to you then now? Well, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us on a Sunday morning instead of having probably something nicer to do. So we do appreciate your interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marina and Marta, for the great presentation. And I think now it's time for our Q&A session. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. And also feel free to ask your questions in Russian if it's easier for you. I'm just going to, I think, ask you to unmute yourself. So we have a first question in our chat, I can see. Can you please briefly explain about GCSE exam book from Olga?
Is that the one with the cards, the speaking cards, Olga? Could you just say yes or no if you don't mind?
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Yes, hello. Yes, nice.
Yeah, да, об этой книге, где карточки. Спасибо.
Ага. Что вас конкретно интересует? Вот именно что, если поподробнее там?
Меня интересует, есть ли аудиопрограммы для того, чтобы делать онлайн-уроки, когда именно подготавливаем, уже студента подготавливаем именно к экзамену. Потому что я использую ваши ресурсы именно для подготовки от нуля до, когда мы уже подходим к экзамену. Да, они великолепные.
Спасибо.
Это просто браво, да, это замечательно. Студенты быстро усваивают, да. Но меня интересует именно вот книга конкретно с карточками.
Значит, с карточками, к сожалению, аудио нет, потому что это speaking, да, это же speaking.
Да.
То есть там, к сожалению, нет. Но я думаю, что если вам нужно как-то это все-таки переправить, может быть, студенту, если вот вы занимаетесь в Zoom, я понимаю, что у нас ситуация поменялась, и, конечно, когда эту книгу мы писали 3 года назад, да, никто не думал, что мы вообще когда-то будем учителями, профессионалами на Zoom, грубо говоря, да, то есть такими...
Ну да.
Сами стали сразу. Но я думаю, что так как вы эту книгу приобрели, значит, здесь есть 2 варианта. Вот как я уже сказала, да, и все-таки это как бы, немножечко затрагивает даже копирайт, да, вы просто можете попросить родителей, чтобы они эту книгу просто приобрели, да, и тогда вы студенту говорите, вот смотри, я сейчас там открываю страницу 10, открой, пожалуйста, в своей книге страницу 10. Я думаю, что любой родитель, 10 фунтов, там, 12 фунтов, как бы, мы стараемся... держать цену на ресурсы достаточно, такие незначительные, чтобы они были достаточно affordable, скажем так, да. Я думаю, здесь вам как тьютору не стоит даже себе, может быть, много ломать голову, а просто сказать, либо приобрести вот такую книжку, и я тогда, то есть ребенок может, пожалуйста, там какие-то сразу пометки себе писать, да, какие-то там тот же вокабуляр туда вписывать, дописывать, да. Также использовать ее вообще просто как рабочую карточку, да, то есть пусть он там на ней все свои даже комментарии пишет, чтобы потом он мог перед экзаменом вернуться и посмотреть, ага, вот это я сделал, вот это у меня было хорошо, вот это плохо, да, то есть вы прям можете с ним прорабатывать в этой же книжке и давать ему тут же оценку, например, ага, вот эту ролл-плей ты сделал, вот здесь ты тик я тебе даю, а здесь нет, да, почему? Он сразу поправляет. То есть он ее, когда у него это все в одном месте, да, вот даже он к следующему разу будет готовить, например, домашнее задание или к экзамену что-то, он сначала это просмотрит, да, потому что вы ему можете также, в принципе, и отправить и на телефоне эту картинку. Ну, знаете как, он ее там потерял, там забыл, где-то какой-то ноутс написал, все это потерялось, и вы через 2 недели опять возвращаемся на круги своя, да, начинается все заново. И я думаю, что вам просто нужно порекомендовать, вот сказать, вот я вам даю линк, вы можете сами эту книжку приобрести, и это будет для всех намного упростить жизнь. И
Хорошо,
для
да.
вашего ребенка, да.
Благодарю за
Да,
совет,
да,
да.
и, да, да, и все, а все, что касается вот типа на старт внимания марш, здесь же вы, когда покупаете этот ресурс, даже если вы индивидуальный преподаватель, вот я просто слежу,
Да.
некоторые вопросы появляются, вы приобретаете лицензию на использование этого материала, да, поэтому цена немножечко, ну, кажется, на первый взгляд дороговатая по сравнению с другими ресурсами, но вы приобретаете полное как бы право использования этим материалом. То есть здесь уже вы можете его, если нужно, распечатать, вы можете создать какие-то копии, вы можете его также своему студенту отправить как приложение, да, то есть он не обязан уже тогда покупать этот материал, вы можете ему просто вот, у вас вот USB, эта флешечка есть, вы ему отправили как приложение, и он ее также у себя раскрыл или распечатал. Да? То есть вот в этом плане на старт внимания марш очень, кстати, удобно, несмотря на то, что он был написан еще даже раньше, но они, кстати, вот именно в Zoom-варианте, вот на онлайн-лернинге они очень даже оказались нужны. То есть здесь вы, так сказать, полностью владеете этим материалом, и вы можете его, ну, грубо говоря, распространять для своих учебных целей. Я не имею в виду здесь как бы подарить это еще одному тутору или своей подруге, очень хорошей, которая преподает русский язык, но со своими студентами вы можете им работать этим материалом и именно в электронном виде.
Хорошо, благодарю.
Пожалуйста.
Thank you, Marina. And we have quite a few questions actually. And I think the next one was the one from Marina Горшкова. Есть ли в книгах на старт знакомство с русскими падежами, please?
Да, да, то есть обязательно, я, наверное, может быть, потому что у нас немножко время сокращено, то есть, как я уже сказала, в каждом уроке есть грамматика. И падежи, это как часть грамматики, обязательно существует там такой раздел, и это буквально начинается с самого-самого первого урока. Вот, то есть буквально они освоили алфавит, научились немножко читать, и вот буквально с 3-го, с 4-го, с 5-го уроков уже начинаются потихонечку падежи. Там винительный, родительный, и каждый урок покрывает один падеж. То есть там нет такой кучи, что вот все падежи сразу, потом мы все это путаем. Нет, то есть там очень такой topic-based focused approach везде. То есть мы берем один падеж, и вы его как следует отрабатываете на этом уроке. Вот. Потом следующий урок берет следующий падеж. Соответственно, когда мы переходим уже более-менее на внимание до какой-то определенной части, там уже идет просто закрепление этих падежей, то есть предполагается, что студенты уже эти падежи знают. Но падежи обязательно покрываем, да.
Thank you, Marina. So the next question was from Leroy Rose, please. I can see the raised hand.
Hi, I have 3 questions, brief questions. Do you offer discounts for an NUS card?
Masha,
I think that's a question to Masha.
Masha, maybe it's
the discounts, sorry, did you say?
You offer a discount with an NUS card, National Union of Students.
So we have discounts for our partners, and I will talk. I wanted to talk about our partner program a bit later. So if you are educational establishment, you are entitled for to discounts on all your purchases. So please do contact me directly at mku@esb.co.uk, and I'm going to provide all the contact information at the end of this event. And yes, we do discounts to private tutors separately as well.
2 other questions, brief questions. GCSE Russian and A-level Russian, what levels do they equate for on the CEFR?
So GCSE will be around about A2, and the A-level will be B1, B2.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question in chat was from Елена Меркулова. Что предложить студентам РКИ, студентам свыше 18 лет?
Можно я уточню, Елена, у них уровень какой? Уровень все-таки GCSE или уже больше к A-level у них уровень?
Марина, абсолютный новичок.
Ага, абсолютно новичок. Ну, значит, смотрите, вот как я сказала, вот этот вот на старт книжки, да, они вроде бы кажутся, что просто они создавались для школы в свое время, как учебники. Но материал, который там мы используем, он абсолютно как бы everyday, да, то есть вот еда, рестораны, погода, жилье, мебель. То есть вы его можете очень даже запросто использовать. Там, и это вот то, что вы, наверное, использовали бы в любом классе, как говорится, Russian as a foreign language. Да? То есть вы приходите, что алфавит, вот грамматика минимальная, как мы уже сказали, да, падежи, время, да, я люблю, я не люблю, мне нравится, мне не нравится, я хочу, прилагательные, цвета, вот как я сказала, еда. То есть если вашему студенту это, конечно, будет немножечко неуместно, вы можете школу выбросить оттуда. Но, опять же, в теме школа у нас там есть, например, канцелярские предметы, да? То есть, например, там школьная мебель, то есть там столы, стулья, книга, сумка. То есть какой-то материал вы все равно оттуда можете использовать, потому что это, как бы то, что им пригодится в жизни в любом случае для общения. Вот, то есть я думаю, вы запросто, то есть там нет конкретно, что там вот, знаете, есть такие учебники, которые создаются, совсем для детей, да, там Том и Джерри типа такого варианта, да, у нас нет, то есть на старт они достаточно, грубо говоря, такие стандартизированные материалы, которые можно просто across stages использовать, да. Тут уже вы как преподаватель, просто используя какие-то свои опыт и навыки, просто решите, ага, вот этот, может быть, exercise я не буду брать, потому что он совсем там про 15-летних говорит, да. А здесь он достаточно general. Вот. И я думаю, что не будет никаких проблем, потому что, опять же, слова там, они там даже, когда, например, какие-то тексты, мы не обсуждаем там, например, я посмотрела там мультик «Ну, погоди», да, то есть тексты достаточно, то есть Новый год, там Рождество, если даже вот такие там путешествия в Москву, путешествия там в Санкт-Петербург, то есть они достаточно настроены все-таки на среднюю школу and above, скажем вот так вот, да, то есть там не детский материал. Я думаю, вы будете очень легко адаптировать, да. А вот эти вот карточки, вот, которые вот именно с картинками, да, то есть это тоже, вот, когда он у вас немножечко уже воспрянет духом в языковом плане, я думаю, там тоже абсолютно, то есть ситуации, которые могут сложиться везде. Вот там, например, у нас есть одна role-play, разговор в туристическом бюро, да, или там lost property. То есть или там путешествие в Москву, да, чем можно заняться в Москве, там картинку нужно описать, какая погода в Москве и так далее. То есть там очень много вот именно таких вот, то есть мы почему и стараемся всегда вот создавать такого рода учебники, чтобы они могли, как бы покрыть как больше аудиторию, да, то есть и в языковом плане, и именно вот в плане возрастном, потому что мы прекрасно понимаем, что, как бы достаточно такой ниш-маркет, да, что особенно когда люди приобретают что-то, они хотят это использовать, как бы с разным уровнем учеников и с разными возрастами, потому что мы понимаем, что вы купили книжку, вы не хотите, чтобы у вас и финансово это было на огромный счет в банке, да, и куча вот этого материала в коробке лежала, потом вы выбирали. То есть вы это можете смело использовать.
Спасибо. Да, потому что еще очень много времени у меня уходит на то, чтобы новое учебное пособие изучить самой, разработать. Вот в чем для меня основная. И я, в общем-то, изучила и разработала вот это пособие. Вы, наверное, знаете, русский язык Пушкинским домом, он Франком, знаете, наверное, да? Оно вроде более взрослое, скажем так, но там тоже есть какие-то свои пробелы. Марина, в этом на старт там есть строчные, прописные, есть, да?
Да.
Вы знаете, поголовно сейчас у меня студенты более взрослого возраста, в каллиграфию ударились. Я не знаю, как у других преподавателей, но требуют, там, и как соединить, и
Нет,
как
там всё это
отсоединить.
есть.
Есть,
Да,
да?
там все это есть. Да, причем вот даже в самом начале есть, например, вот текст написан, ну, скажем, вот для
Да,
reading,
да,
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 он написан печатными, а потом внизу он также скопирован письменными. Вот именно, чтобы
да.
они привыкали, вот как это все выглядит в соединении, чтобы они могли это прочитать. Да, одно дело еще написать, а другое дело еще суметь же это и прочитать потом. То есть
Да.
я думаю, если вас, знаете, как можно сделать, если вас интересуют вот именно какие-то конкретные нюансы, чтобы сейчас как бы всем дать время
Да.
задать вопрос, вы прям просто можете написать Маше, и мы ей можем отправить вот конкретный, может быть, sample page, вот именно который показывает, как мы работаем вот именно как, с какой-то конкретной проблемой.
Хорошо.
Все, что касается
Спасибо.
вот новичков, там информация полностью вся есть. И
Спасибо.
словарные запасы, и где-то и картинки, то есть вот эти вот там картинка, слово нужно соединить, или, например, слово, как оно произносится, может быть, да, то есть на самом начале там даже у нас в скобочках транскрипции идут, чтобы они
Хорошо. Да,
могли,
да, да,
да,
да,
то
да,
есть
да.
все это там очень... И, соответственно, транскрипты там идут, да, то есть для каждого аудио есть транскрипт.
Да, поняла,
То
да.
есть, опять же, вот студенты могут всегда потом дома сами наушники одеть, читать и слушать, да, потому что вот я из своего опыта знаю, что особенно, ну как, нам кажется, что они запоминают, а приходят через неделю на урок, они вообще забыли, как эти буквы называются.
Абсолютно.
Да. И поэтому, когда они дома могут, вы же вот можете им это, ну, как бы отправить, сказать, вот вы вот этот вот аудиофайл, они у нас все отдельно там прикреплены, то есть вы отдельно аудиофайл ему отправили, отдельную страничку отправить, скажу, прослушай, пожалуйста, еще раз вот этот вот текст. Вот тебе его транскрипт, вот тебе аудиофайл, вот просто посиди, послушай, да, чтобы ты запомнил, как эти буквы вообще называются, да, или как это читать в соединении.
Да, да, да.
То есть все это есть, то есть материала там предостаточно. И в плане того насколько тяжело вам ознакомиться, вот, ну и как бы понять этот учебник, вот я вам показала несколько сейчас страничек из Марша. Маша, вот у них на сайте есть и другие ресурсы, тоже некоторые уровни, да, потому что вы еще раз можете посмотреть, как мы это все там раскладываем. И вы посмотрели сейчас 4-ю тему, то есть у нас, я вам так скажу, будучи сама преподавателем с большим опытом, и Марта то же самое, то есть мы постарались создать такой учебник, который вот вы открыли, и там все понятно. И вы берете страницу, и вы с ней можете работать, да? То есть там не надо сидеть, ой, вот эти 3 упражнения я отсюда уберу, потому что они вообще не по теме, или они вообще не подходят. Вот эти там 3 предложения, потому что они вообще непонятно там про какую-то Прагу, я их тоже должна там закрыть, скопировать, убрать. Там такого нет. То есть мы тратим достаточно много времени, прорабатывая этот материал, потом его редактируя, чтобы, ну, практически там не было ничего лишнего. Я вам взяли страницу, вы ее можете смело давать ученику с малейшей как бы своей вот ознакомительной частью и с подготовкой, и будьте уверены, что там ничего вот таких казусов не возникнет, что вдруг там вылезет какое-то слово непонятное, или вдруг там про 20-й съезд КПСС что-то откуда-то всплывет, потому что уже там 20 лет не обсуждается, потому что учебники старые. То есть в этом плане, ну как бы сколько затрат по времени нужно вам, чтобы с этим учебником работать, я вам скажу, это минимально. Вот, потому что сама эти учебники использую.
Спасибо, Марина. Спасибо, Елена, за вопрос. The next question was from Lana Parmenter, please. And then we have from Anastasia as well. Sorry, we're running a bit late. So, Lana, please.
Здравствуйте, Марина и Марфа. Огромное спасибо за ваш титанический труд. У меня вопрос по GCSE Russian. Скажите, добавили ли вы дополнительно уроки по 4-й и 5-й теме Future Aspiration and International Global Dimension, потому что, ну, насколько я знаю, мы используем марш, внимание на старт, там нет достаточно информации по вот этим 4-й и по 5-й теме. Спасибо.
Marta, do you want to take the lead on that one?
Yes, we haven't. Yeah, we haven't. So it is just as it was in the start внимание марш as it was for the previous course. So no, I'm afraid it hasn't, but I know there's a few little bits missing now with the new course, but hopefully there's enough in there that means that, okay, with future aspirations, maybe when you're doing the work chapters and things like that, you can bring things in there. But yes, I'm afraid we haven't got got it for the any additional material for the new specification. Well,
all right. Okay. Just
maybe just elaborate on that. As Marta was saying, when you're doing the work experience bit in March, I think that will cover that very well. Volunteering as well can come there. I think the only bit that is still kind of missing there, the major probably fault at the moment, just because of the new specification, is perhaps this like festival, like huge festivals and world championship, etc. But I think that's the only bit which is slightly missing. However, you can complement some of this information, just at least the, you know, if you're using the speaking booklet, at least for the speaking part, you can use those pictures, because in that one we already have all the themes that are needed for the newest specification. So
right.
yeah, so if you do have March already, don't purchase it again, but maybe on top of it, you know, get the GCSE speaking booklet, because at least by using the stimulus pictures, by using some questions, you can then stimulate your students to talk and discuss that topic in a bit more. However, even if you think about it, the way they've changed specification, they kind of named it differently. But if you think of the vocabulary, which March actually has, particularly towards the end, there's more than enough to be able to discuss those topics. It's just maybe you as a teacher, I would probably suggest maybe like using the pictures, or maybe even finding a reading text, just to give them a bit of an overview of that. And from the past, I know we haven't had a lot of exams, unluckily, but I think what the tendency is, again, I don't want to speak for Edexcel, but I mean, just from the experience, and Marta might, you know, elaborate more on this if she wishes. They are covering still more or less those traditional themes and topics that used to be before, like in AS level, which is more like ecology work, but not so much this sort of newly fashion of festivals, etc. I think festivals are still coming quite a lot under the traditions, which is again pretty well covered in March. So I would just probably just just see how you can actually turn those texts and kind of move.
Just one more question. Is there any chance you can add maybe a couple of lessons with listening and reading on this ecology future aspiration? That would be great, because I mean, as we know, there is a new specification, and we, like last year, we really had to look for, you know, we of course we were using some March bits, as you said, about the work and the other stuff, but we had to use Red Square because they had a, you know, variety of topics like ecology and other stuff which we can cover for listening and reading as well. So my question is there any chance you can add to March couple of
a completely new little booklet on that?
I think we'll add it to the list of things.
That would be great, because otherwise we're going to have like a full complete course for GCSE. And thank you very much. We're looking forward to your book for theme 3 as well, for Moscow and St. Petersburg. That's great. That will make a huge difference to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lana, for your question. And the last question, I'm sorry, Anastasia. So, у меня вопрос по книгам GCSE. Материал во всех модулях разбит по темам GCSE или на старт только часть тем, а во внимание и марш оставшиеся? Скажем, тема Identity and Culture есть во всех модулях или только в одном?
Значит, Анастасия, здесь какая ситуация? Здесь, во-первых, конечно, да, начну немножко с конца. То есть есть некоторые темы, как вот сейчас мы с Ланой обговаривали, да, которые suitable только для определенного уровня языкового, да, то есть там экология, молодежная культура, здоровье, да, то есть нужно как бы building up.
Ну, понятно, да.
Да? То есть некоторые темы, они просто на старт 1 и 2, они просто не подойдут, да? Вот. В книжке на старт 1 и 2 там как бы достаточно в basic варианте покрываются основные темы, то есть еда, погода, немножко путешествия, жилье, мебель, школьный день. Там точно нет работы, потому что я, как уже сказала, да, для этого нужно немножечко в языковом плане дорасти. Да. работа появляется уже во внимании немножко, и, соответственно, как бы уже вот традиции, вот это все больше появляется во внимании, конечно.
То есть мой вопрос был задан, потому что мне было интересно, то есть если я, скажем, учу студентов, для которых русский как иностранный, и они полностью начинают с нуля, то есть если я, скажем, тогда беру модуль на старт, этого модуля одного мне будет достаточно? Вы говорили, что он займет, может быть, 2 года, да? То есть вот за эти 2 года он покроет все, что GCSE предполагает, или все же нет, потому что там нету environment, нету future aspirations?
Я бы вам так посоветовала. Значит, если, может быть, тогда вам... Вы частным образом преподаете?
Да, я частным образом.
И они с нуля. То есть, может быть, вам приобрести как бы на старт 1, да, где вот, как мы уже обсудили, кто нам у нас вопрос задавал, Ольга, по-моему, да, вот когда она просила, вот, где идет каллиграфия, да, элементарные вещи, которые, ну, нужно с них начинать, да, в любом случае. Приобрести на старт 1, а потом тогда, может быть, перейти на внимание, но здесь вам придется как бы достаточно много, ну, какой-то как бы filling in the gaps сделать, или, может быть, какой-то differentiation, или как-то больше времени уделять ну, как бы прохождению вот этого каждого урока, потому что между на старт и вниманием, даже на старт 2 и вниманием, там достаточно такой, ну, мостик, да, то есть если не брать на старт 2, то как бы мостик, он немножечко нарушается, и нужно будет его как-то все равно чуть-чуть дополнять тогда, да. Вот. Темы пересекаются, на старт 2 и во внимании темы пересекаются, но во внимании они уже сделаны на более таком зрелом уровне, именно вот то, что нужно для GCSE.
Понятно, то есть, скажем, если на старт, он может быть... В принципе, даже для тех, кто не собирается изучать GCSE, просто они хотят дети, скажем, да, которые начинают изучать. И еще один очень быстрый вопрос, я очень извиняюсь, что я всех задерживаю. Письмо, то есть тоже это большая проблема. Кстати, очень большая проблема для русскоговорящих студентов, которые прекрасно говорят, но вообще не могут писать. Вот именно орфография как-то там предусматривается или все-таки не очень? Вот правила письма, скажем, или это уже все-таки отдельно что-то, что мы должны изучать?
Вы имеете в виду вот эти вот все правила правописания, да?
Ну, да, то есть как-то вот, как студенты, которые изучают, скажем, язык, они как-то должны уметь писать, да, то есть как-то правильно.
Ну, писать правильно, значит, здесь, опять же, если мы говорим про письмо, да, там несколько элементов. Один элемент – это вот уже просто буквы научиться писать, да?
Ну, да, то есть мы с этим, мы, скажем, уже справились, то есть нам надо именно…
правильно слова писать.
Да, окончание, да.
Значит, опять же, немножечко вернусь, потому что, понятно, информации много. В каждом юните, да, даже не в каждом юните, каждый урок в конце предполагает вот целую практически страницу список слов, да? То есть, вот, исходя из своего же опыта, ну и, наверное, многие здесь, может быть, так как у нас все-таки идет немножко нетворкинг event, может быть, кто-то поделится своими мнениями, как они используют вокабуляр. Но студентов, которые именно иностранцы, да, вот именно иностранцы, они, конечно, зазубривают эти слова.
Просто выучивают.
Сразу же смотрят, как они пишутся. Да? То есть потом мы делаем вот этот vocabulary check, пишем, все ошибки исправляем, они... ну, как бы, грубо говоря, механически опять это все запоминают. Да, такой learning мы это называем. Если у вас ситуация, да, второй момент, что вот у меня тоже такие студенты бывают, он native speaker, да, он их знает, ему вроде бы их зубрить не нужно, но он их не умеет писать. Да. Подход у меня, ну, немножечко, скажем так, сокращенный, попроще, но тот же самый. То есть, я говорю, хорошо, ты эти все слова знаешь, ты просто учишь их написание, мы с тобой делаем vocabulary тест. Потом вы ему можете не говорить English to Russian, да, например, если я иностранным студентам, я говорю там сама, как он по-русски, они пишут, да, то есть я как бы там двойная у меня проверка идет, знает ли он слово, знает ли он, как его писать. Русскими студентами, чтобы опять это весь процесс немножко ускорить, вы можете ему так и говорить. Лето, да, или, например, там погода. Вот именно, если вы хотите проработать какой-то спеллинг. Да, вот,
хорошо.
И это, соответственно, меньше времени у вас займет. Да? Вот. Опять же, я хочу обратить ваше внимание, что здесь зависит от, так сказать, от клиента. Да? То есть на GCSE до какого-то момента ну, мы допускаются
ошибки. Конечно, да.
То есть, чтобы получить 9 даже,
не нужно
реально. Да? Не нужно писать там вообще без ошибок. Да? Есть, конечно, какие-то нюансы, но это тогда, может быть, мы уже сделаем какую-то еще другую отдельно. Да. То есть они не должны писать 100% аккуратно, даже чтобы получить 9.
Да, они, по-моему, должны писать, чтобы их можно было понять, что, то есть они не должны делать ошибок смысловых.
Да. Вот. Опять же, если у вас попадаются родители или, например, вот просто РКИ студент, который хочет действительно сам написать грамотно и уметь писать, ну, то есть, говорю, здесь немножко уже зависит от клиента, насколько вы будете мучить и, ну, грубо говоря, продалбливать, прорабатывать вот этот вокабуляр. Да, то есть, как таковых вот этого правила правописания орфографии, этого нет.
Не предусматривается.
Да, не предусматривается. Это учебник русского языка для русских детей, он больше для иностранцев идет, да, вот. То есть, если вы уже как бы хотите вот именно этим уже заняться, то я думаю, здесь, наверное, подойдут более какие-то немножечко другие учебники, ну, отдельные, вот там Златоуст их также выпускает, и все. Но я вот из своего опыта знаю, что вот если мы преподаем это вот в этом тематическом подходе, да, и они заучивают вокабуляр, мы его регулярно проверяем, потом в writing они все это используют, я это в writing, соответственно, все это поправляю, когда я делаю свою проверку этих их диктантов, сочинений. Мы также можем делать работу над ошибками, да, с этими сочинениями. Если написано вообще отвратительно, я их заставлю иногда целые тексты переписывать заново, чтобы эта вся аккуратность нарабатывалась. То есть больше такой вот подход именно к РКИ, да, они вот не как в русских школах учат.
Ну, это понятно. А вы, вот, опять же, в учебнике, то есть там есть какие-то упражнения именно на письмо, потому что в GCSE же там же есть задания, да, письменные. Напиши письмо другу и так далее. То есть там есть эти задания тоже, они предусмотрены.
Да, то есть сейчас мы writing не дошли, но в каждом, опять же, юните, в каждом уроке, опять я правильно говорю, обязательно, то есть каждый урок покрывает обязательно вот этот вот список слов, обязательно reading, обязательно грамматику, обязательно работа с вокабуляром, обязательно грамматическая работа на закрепление этой грамматики, обязательно listening, обязательно translation, который, опять же, правописание можно проработать, и обязательно writing. То есть каждый урок покрывает все
аспекты.
Где-то побольше reading, где-то побольше writing, где-то они репетируют более короткие написания текстов, где-то более длинные. Перевод, listening иногда по 2-3 упражнения даже бывает. Вот, опять же, если вы хотите больше вот native speakers поднатянуть на письмо, я иногда заставляю своих, вот, например, учеников ответы на listening писать все на русском.
А в GCSE они пишут их по-английски?
Есть секции, где нужно...
Да, там есть, по-моему, какой foundation.
Да, но вы можете сказать, что мы это просто делаем для практики, да, и чтобы вот им как бы, опять же, я понимаю, что начинать там на старт для native speaker, которые все эти слова знают, достаточно, ну, как бы скучновато может быть. Я это пытаюсь вот так вот разнообразить, разбавлять. Я говорю, смотри, мы с тобой за один урок проходим сразу 3 урока, да, потому что мы это делаем быстро. И каким образом? То есть ты запоминаешь слова, мы их практикуем. Я сразу обговариваю, смотри, для экзамена может быть и так, но здесь мы с тобой, потому что это простой материал. Весь listening мы отрабатываем, ты мне пишешь ответы на русском языке. То есть опять, чтобы вам как бы вот немножечко именно с большей пользой вот именно того скиллза провести этот урок. А соответственно, когда уроки становятся посложнее, вот, на внимание, они уже, там бывают некоторые слова, и даже native speakers не знают, ребята, поверьте. Там, когда разбираются части света, там погода, или даже традиции, они некоторых слов уже не знают. То есть на старт можно пройти, если он говорящий ребенок, достаточно быстро. И подготовить вот к дальнейшему материалу и вот к разработке письма, да. Письмо
Хорошо,
есть...
Спасибо вам большое, очень интересно. Спасибо.
Спасибо, Anastasia. Спасибо, Marina, Marta, for answering those questions. Just a quick overview, if that's okay. I'll just show you the screen. That's a couple of slides I had left for you to show because we had quite a few people interested. So that's all the resources we were talking about today, and that's the resources you can find on our website. You can order them by ESB code. Sorry, that's it. Just go to the actual slide. That's the one. And these are the resources available on our website. You just have to type in the code of the book or ISBN code in the search box on our website, or you can type the name of the book if you know the actual name, but our website only supports Latin, so you can't type in Cyrillic when you look for a book. So these are the resources we distribute, and на старт внимание MAR obviously has 4 different codes, has 4 modules, comes in a digital format as it's been mentioned before. And to place your order online, you can do it either from our Russian Bookshop website, which is russianbookshop.co.uk, from our European Bookshop website, but probably we're all here interested in Russian, so it makes sense to go for Russian titles on the specific language website. And we dispatch all the titles in stock straight away from our warehouse in Cheltenham. Titles which are not in stock, we will order for you specifically from the publisher or supplier. And as I said before, you are entitled to some discounts if you are a partner of our company. And if you generally have any questions or you need help with an order, please feel free to email us, phone us. We have a chat facility, live chat, direct at esb.co.uk. That's the generic email that everyone monitors, including our customer services. We have our bookshop at esb.co.uk for the bookshop and showroom, as I said before. And also we have a separate email address for the Russian department, which is russian@esb.co.uk. And please feel free to email myself directly, which is mku@esb.co.uk. We also have all social media, very social media friendly, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us, and you can also sign up for our newsletter so you are up to date with all the events we're doing, like this one, the webinars, and all the campaigns we are launching, and all the promotions of the new resources we're doing. So we would like to hear from you too. Thank you very much, everyone. That would be it. So thank you. I just stop sharing the screen. Thank you, Marina, Marta, again.
Thank you, Masha, and thanks everyone for attending. We, as Marina said, we really appreciate you tuning in on a Sunday. So.
On a Sunday, indeed. Have a great day, everyone, and hopefully see you soon again.
Thank you. Thank you. До свидания. До свидания.
До свидания. Bye-bye.
Маша, а может быть написать потом, когда вы будете писать, что вот можно в шоп-то зайти, сейчас же GCSE у нас там будет материал все выставляться, да, если кому-то интересно посмотреть?
Yeah. GCSE уже на странице размещен, то есть люди, которые увидят, там специальная секция RFL for School Children, я разместила на старт внимания MAR тоже там, у нас и тренировочные тесты по GCSE тоже там.
И вот что сейчас-то вы будете на Глостер Роуд выставлять, да? Там же можно зайти в магазин посмотреть, или пока еще этого нельзя сделать частным образом?
Можно, шоурум уже открыто, да, с сентября. Просто нужно написать нам заранее, book an appointment. То есть у нас сейчас пока pre-arrangement only. Вот, и я, главное, что предоставила все контактные данные, конечно же,
люди могут прийти и посмотреть, в принципе.
Конечно, конечно. То есть можно посмотреть и вживую, посмотреть онлайн. Милости просим, пожалуйста.
Вы откроетесь на Gloucester Road, да, Маша?
Да, 123, 123 Gloucester Road, то есть адрес у нас тот же остался. Ну, сам магазин сейчас переоборудуем в шоурум, скажем, такой выставочный зал. По сути, будет выставка каждый месяц проходить. И вот в этом месяце у нас Languages for Children и Russian Department, у него тоже такая небольшая секция там, хороший дисплей, я так думаю. Так что, пожалуйста, приходите, смотрите.
Хорошо, спасибо. До свидания.
Спасибо, до свидания. Спасибо вам.
До свидания, спасибо большое.
До свидания.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to rush off. As Marina knows, I normally always have lunch with my mum on a Sunday, so
That's
I'm going to rush off. But thank you very much, Masha, for organising it.
Thank you.
Really good. Marina, I'll probably give you a ring tonight. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Masha, we see I've got a couple of people lingering, or is it they've forgotten to switch themselves off?
I think they're still there, so I'm just waiting just in case as well myself. Just a quick comment. If everything is fine, or is it okay if we just end this meeting?
I think so, yes. Or you can't end it for other people, can you, Masha?
No, I think I'm just gonna end for everyone, Marina. If that's okay. Thank you very much again, and thank you for your ongoing support and cooperation as ever.
You know, any comments, you can just drop me a WhatsApp message maybe, and then we can have a chat with Marta as well towards the evening, just to see how it's doing. But I think maybe, you know, when you're doing putting the recording of this event, maybe point out that, you know, there is a showroom available, but they have to book it, because there have been quite a lot of interest for GCSE.
Yeah,
they can actually come and see.
Yeah, absolutely.
A bit more, particularly for London-based tutors, it might be quite useful.
Absolutely.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.